They never fired me. They did something worse. They erased me, slowly, quietly, and with smiles in public.
No emails.
No paper trail. Just closed doors, stalled careers, and whispered poison that followed me from desk to desk like a shadow that refused to die. It started with a rejection. One word. One boundary. From that moment, I became the problem that needed to disappear. They starved my future while pretending to mentor me. They laughed about loyalty and teamwork while accusing me of treachery behind closed doors, all because of a surname, a rumor, a lie they knew could never be traced back to them. My manager's war stories became threats when we were alone. Her bruised ego became policy when no one was watching. I survived by leaving. I escaped by staying silent. But silence doesn't mean peace. 20 years later, I still wake up sweating, replaying meetings that never happened and promotions that were never meant for me. And now I see them, older, softer, celebrated, posting inspirational quotes online like they didn't break someone for sport. Before we continue, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? And if this story resonates with you, hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is witness each other's truth. This isn't about forgiveness. This is about truth. And truth has a long memory. It was a Tuesday when I said no. Not a dramatic no. Not a defiant, career-ending declaration. Just a simple, professional boundary. I'm not comfortable with that approach. I think we should reconsider. The room went cold. My manager, Helen, stopped mid-sentence. Her smile froze like ice cracking over deep water. The other managers exchanged glances, the kind that communicate entire conversations without words. I had rejected her idea in front of the regional director. I didn't know then that some egos are so fragile, a single word can shatter them into weapons. The meeting ended. Everyone filed out. Helen touched my shoulder as I gathered my notes, a gesture that might have looked supportive to anyone watching. "We need to talk about your attitude," she whispered, her smile never reaching her eyes. That afternoon, I was quietly removed from the project I'd been leading for 6 months.
No explanation.
Just an email reassigning responsibilities to balance workload. My name disappeared from meeting invites. My contributions were suddenly credited to others. When I asked why, Helen looked concerned, motherly even. "I'm worried about you," she said. "You seem stressed. Maybe you're taking on too much." The gaslighting had begun, and I didn't even know I was already buried. 6 months later, the promotion I'd been promised went to someone else. Not just anyone, someone who'd been with the company half as long, who I'd personally trained, who still came to me with questions they should have been able to answer themselves. "You're not quite ready yet," Helen explained in my performance review, her tone dripping with false sympathy. "You need more executive presence, more emotional maturity." I had led 3 successful campaigns. I had exceeded every metric. I had documentation proving my impact, spreadsheets, client testimonials, revenue growth tied directly to my strategies.
None of it mattered.
"It's not about what you've done," she said, leaning back in her chair. "It's about how you make people feel. And honestly, some of the team find you difficult." Difficult. That word became my scarlet letter. I asked for specifics. Examples.
Dates.
Anything concrete I could address. She smiled. "It's just a feeling. A pattern others have noticed. I'm trying to protect you by being honest." The meeting ended with her suggesting I work on being more collaborative and less defensive. I left her office shaking, my confidence bleeding out with every step. I didn't know then that this was the strategy. Make me doubt myself so thoroughly that I'd stop asking questions. Make me grateful for crumbs while they starved me of opportunities. And it was working. The rumors started subtly. Someone mentioned in passing that I'd been talking to a competitor. I hadn't been. Someone else said I'd been bad-mouthing the company. I hadn't. Then came the strangest accusation of all, that I was somehow connected to a former employee who'd left under a cloud, someone I'd never even met. We shared the same surname. That was it. But in Helen's hands, Coincidence became conspiracy. "I'm not accusing you of anything," she said during another impromptu meeting. "But people are asking questions. You understand how it looks, right?" I didn't understand. I didn't understand anything anymore. My emails were scrutinized. My lunch breaks monitored. Colleagues who used to chat with me at the coffee machine suddenly found reasons to walk away when I approached. I became invisible and hypervisible at the same time, ignored in meetings but watched in hallways. The isolation was suffocating. I tried defending myself, providing evidence, asking HR for mediation. But HR worked for the company, not for me. They listened with sympathetic faces and did nothing. Helen's version of events, vague, unprovable, perfectly poisonous, became the official story. I was the problem employee, the difficult one, the liability. And the cruelest part? She never once raised her voice, never put anything damaging in writing. She destroyed me with concern, with quiet suggestions, with kindness that concealed daggers. Helen had a favorite story she told at team events. It was about her time in the military, how she'd dealt with troublemakers who thought they were smarter than the system, how she'd managed them out, without them even realizing what was happening. She'd laugh as she told it, and everyone would laugh with her. But when we were alone, the story changed. "You remind me of someone I used to work with," she said once, late on a Friday when the office was nearly empty. Her voice was casual, almost friendly. Thought she was untouchable. Thought she could go around me. She paused, looking directly at me. "She doesn't work here anymore. Actually, I heard she's had trouble finding work anywhere in the industry." Small world, isn't it? The threat was clear. The smile never wavered. In public, Helen was my champion. She praised me in meetings, recommended me for training programs that led nowhere, wrote glowing comments on projects she'd later reassigned to others. To anyone watching, she looked like the perfect mentor. But behind closed doors, she was methodically dismantling my career. She blocked my transfer requests. She gave me assignments designed to fail, impossible deadlines, insufficient resources, then criticism when I couldn't deliver miracles. She scheduled my performance reviews right before major holidays, ensuring I'd spend my time off drowning in anxiety. And through it all, she smiled. I lasted another 18 months. 18 months of panic attacks in bathroom stalls. 18 months of sleepless nights and Sunday dread so intense I'd vomit before work. 18 months of watching my confidence dissolve like sugar in acid. When I finally resigned, I didn't have another job lined up. I just couldn't breathe anymore. Helen accepted my resignation with practiced sorrow. "I wish you'd come to me sooner," she said, shaking her head. "I had no idea you were struggling this much. We could have worked something out." There was no exit interview. No documentation of the hostile environment, the manufactured accusations, the systematic isolation. The company accepted my departure with the same quiet efficiency they'd used to erase me, smooth, clean, legally untouchable. I left with a reference letter that said all the right things and meant nothing. A letter Helen herself had written, full of praise that rang hollow because we both knew what she'd done. For months afterward, I couldn't apply for jobs. I'd stare at application forms and freeze, convinced that somehow they all knew. That Helen's poison had spread through the entire industry. That I was unemployable now, marked. I told myself I'd moved on. That it was in the past. But trauma doesn't care about geography or time. It follows you. And I was about to learn that running doesn't equal healing. 20 years later, I still dream about that office. In the dreams, I'm presenting to executives, and suddenly my slides are blank. Or I'm searching desperately for a meeting room that doesn't exist. Or I'm trying to defend myself against accusations I can't quite hear, speaking words that no one acknowledges. I wake up with my heart racing, my sheets soaked with sweat, and it takes minutes to remember. I don't work there anymore. I haven't for 2 decades. But the damage outlasted the job. I've built a successful career since then, on my own terms, in my own business, where no one can quietly erase me. I've thrived, actually. Financially comfortable, respected in my field. By any external measure, I won. So, why does it still hurt? Why do I still check Helen's LinkedIn profile sometimes, seeing her retirement posts and leadership awards? Why do I feel my chest tighten when I see her sharing motivational quotes about lifting others up and creating inclusive workplaces? Because she got away with it. Because she's celebrated. Because no one knows what she did, and even if they did, would they care? I thought time would dull this. I thought success would erase it. I thought silence would eventually become peace. I was wrong. Healing isn't about forgetting. It's not about moving on or letting go, or any of those platitudes people offer when they're uncomfortable with your pain. Sometimes healing starts with remembering. Last month, I received an email. It was from a young woman. I'll call her Mary, who'd found my business through a mutual connection. She wanted advice. She was experiencing something at work that she couldn't quite name, something that made her feel crazy and small and perpetually wrong. As she described her situation, my hands started shaking. Different office. Different decade. Same story. Her manager's name wasn't Helen, but the tactics were identical. The vague accusations, the public praise coupled with private undermining, the systematic isolation disguised as concern. Even the surname rumor. Mary shared a last name with someone who'd sued the company years ago, and now suddenly she was associated with troublemakers. I told her everything. Not just advice, truth. I named what was happening to her. I gave her language for the thing that had no name. And then I did something I'd never done before. I share my story. Within a week, 3 more women reached out. Then 10. Then dozens. All with versions of the same story. All buried under years of silence and self-doubt. All told they were the problem when they knew, somewhere deep down, that they weren't. We created a quiet network. We documented patterns. We supported each other through exit strategies and legal consultations and the aftermath of workplace trauma. We didn't seek revenge. We sought visibility. And one by one, the Helens of the world found their power diminishing. Not through confrontation, but through truth shared in whispers that grew into conversations. Companies that ignored one complaint couldn't ignore patterns. Industries that protected toxic leaders eventually had to choose between reputation and complicity. Helen retired last year. Her farewell was small, noticeably smaller than she probably imagined. I didn't attend. I didn't need to. Because here's what I learned. They buried me, yes. But they also taught me to dig. And when you learn to dig, you don't just excavate your own story, you uncover everyone else's too. This isn't about getting even. It's about making sure the next person doesn't have to dig alone. Truth has a long memory, but truth also has witnesses. And we're not staying silent anymore. If this story touched you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it.
Comment with your experience.
Let's build something that can't be buried. Because they can silence one voice, but they can't silence all of us.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Beyond the Scripted.